mean by saying invalid. I talked about cycle time. This is very important. This is not something that you can find an Excel template for. This is something you should be able to do on your own, and it can take some time.
Wait, I don't want their fucking emails though.
For some reason,
I just want the
one of the
time.
problems that I worked on cycle time is being this much writing to figure it out.
No, they wouldn't
And
let me.
I just want to show you that sometimes these things take a little thinking. You may not get this answer exactly, or you know exactly what you're doing, and you have to think through it. But even took me about 5 minutes to work through something that probably should have taken me about a minute. Because I got confused, I had to think about it at the end of the day.
I go everywhere.
And don't feel bad if you don't understand this stuff immediately. That's part of learning.
The fucking
It's
program
getting
is
a
like
little
35
confused
minutes.
at times. And your
Tickets
confusion
are
is
30.
ideas, you're thinking about trying to define the answer. It's important that you look at this. This is where you get wrong on the quizzes. There will be a question about cycle time, this assembly line, quantitative side on it. This is almost guaranteed. But cycle time is production time per unit.
Yeah.
If you want to get the problem wrong, put it as in units per time. Notice how here it's got production time, CD equals cycle time, CD equals production time available divided by desired output. And the production time, remember, default is an 8-hour day. Even though a lot of companies, especially unions, have half-hour breaks and then 2 15-minute breaks throughout the day. Just for this class, assume ideal scenario, people will get there and work exactly at 8 o'clock, or they start exactly at when they start and then work for 8 full hours. And 8 hours is 480 minutes. And sometimes cycle time is converted to seconds. So pay attention to the units for that. Again, when we talk about cycle time, it's just like I was telling you the example of when I ran track and I was a sprinter and had to run with long distance people. I was the slowest when I was in the front. They did the running thing is where you line up or you just jog around the track, and whoever's in the front determines the pace that you're going. So with cycle time, you can only go as fast as the slowest step. So in this case, cycle time is only 7 minutes. It's going to take 7 minutes to finish one, so at step 2, it's going to be idle for 3 minutes. It's going to have nothing to do for 3 minutes. Step 3 is going to have nothing to do for 2 minutes. And when you're doing these problems, assume that the cycle time is for an assembly line that's already going. So every 7 minutes, you're going to get a unit off of this, something to be completed. This is what we're going to walk through. The idea, so you can do this by hand if you want to. I would not recommend it, but I want to show you this so you understand what's going on behind the spreadsheet, to understand the math and the numbers. So this is, you can see it's a problem from the book. So if you need help and want to add extra context to it, more through the book, you're always going to be given a table with a list of tasks, assembly time, and then tasks that follow it. And somewhere it's going to tell you the minutes available and the units required. So you see that orange box in the upper right, the first thing you think of, oh, I can use that to calculate cycle time. And cycle time is minutes per unit. And understand too, that right here, this number, this is another confusion point. I may have something like this on an exam or quiz. I may not have this down here. I may ask you, what is the assembly time? The assembly time is not the cycle time. The assembly time is the time it takes to assemble something. So that's just simply you add up each one of these steps. So, if you've had project management, or if you're planning taking project management, you'll see this again. We'll also see this again in the project management section. But basically, you're assembling a diagram for this that graphically shows how these are related. So what this means by predecessor is that task B cannot finish until task A is done. And then task C can't finish until B is done, D can't finish until B, and go on from here. This means that most people put on socks and then put on shoes. So putting your shoes on, you has to follow having your socks on. That's all this is meaning. What order do you do these? Precedent, order. And you can complete this diagram if you want. You won't be asked to do this for the quiz. But if you want to practice, you can see here, you can build a diagram like this. And what this is showing you is I'm a picture-oriented person. You can think of this as looking straight down on your factory floor. And these you can think of as different machines or different stations or areas within the factory. And you can see the 10 above A means it takes 10 minutes for step A to happen. Then B takes 11 and so forth. You can see here that C and D both follow B. So you can see B points to here and you have C and D. Then step I, G, and H go into I. So that's all a precedent diagram. You have to determine the order before you can figure it, so you can start manipulating the assembly line. So here's where the math and the fun really starts, because you say, okay, we're going to determine the cycle time, so production time divided by units, and we need to figure out the minimum number of workstations. We'll talk about that in a second. So we've got cycle time is 12 minutes per unit. So what that means is that you have to complete a unit every 12 minutes to stay on the production schedule to meet your customer's demand. If this number, if it takes you 13 minutes per unit, then you're going to be 1 minute behind for each unit, and eventually you're going to be behind on all of your production, and your customer will not be happy. That's what this cycle time means. That's why it's so important to production people. Because if you can't meet your cycle time cannot be met, you cannot meet the customer's demands. So the salespeople need to be careful that they don't overpromise. They need to understand the production time it takes. When I did sales, we worked with a company, the machine was actually built in Italy. You had to understand how long it took, and this is a place where it had like a really small storage area, about the size of this area over here. So it's basically when a customer ordered something, and we had to send the order to Italy, and they made it and sent it. So you have to understand not only the supply chain type, like delivery, but you have to understand how long it takes to produce it. And to produce one of those machines, it took several weeks, because you had to get components from different areas. So that's why it's important to understand things like cycle time, even if you're not a production manager. So minimum number of workstations. So for this, the time for the task, the sum of the task, you remember from statistics, this is the sum. You add up all of these, the assembly time, and divide it by 12. That gives you 5.4. So what that means is that when to meet your cycle time, you are going to have to divide this to 5.4 workstations, which means you have to round up because you can't have partial workstations. So that's what we're doing here, because again, this is one of those other places. In the chapter, you'll note there's two kinds. You can't have partial people, and you can't have partial workstations. You have to round up to have whole ones. So what this means is that the minimum number of workstations you can have, given this assembly time, and this cycle time, is 6 stations. And that's your goal. You want to see if you can get to that 6th number. Minimize the number of workstations. This all makes sense. Thank you. So how do you assign workstations? There's different ways to do this. And this, in our spreadsheet, there's numbers you can enter. And there's different ways to do this. You get longest task time, most following tasks, etc. So, knowing that you have 6 workstations assigned, you can take this layout and start boxing out, carving out different places for workstations. And I did this for you. You can do this on your own if you want. But you can see here that you break this up, you have 12-minute cycle time. Now, if any one of these combination workstations is greater than 12 minutes, then it cannot be used because you'll be behind on production. And your salespeople will be annoyed because they have to explain to the customer why you're going to be late. I'm not picking on salespeople, I'm just trying to make a connection. So you can see this station takes 10 minutes, 11, 11. It's easy to see these are less than 12. Same thing with H. But if you look at station 5, you have 5, 4, and 3. So it's going to take 12 minutes for this station for the part, whatever you're doing to make it through that station. At station 6, you can see 7 plus 3 is 10. So this can be done by hand, but the computer can do it faster, more efficiently. That's why you want to do it by computer. It's easy to do for something simple like this, but a lot of production lines are more complex. So use a computer, use a template to do that. So now we get into something called efficiency, which is the sum of the task times divided by the actual number of workstations times the largest cycle time. So let's look at these individually. The task times are 65 minutes. Okay? So you're saying, well, how long should it take? If we could do everything without having to wait for anything, it should take 50 to 65 minutes is ideal. However, we know that there's going to be 6 stations, and we know our cycle time is 12 minutes. So in reality, we have 6 times 12. 6 times 12, which is 72. Yep. So we know that 65 divided by 72 is less than 100. So it's going to be a 90% efficiency, which means that you're only operating 90% of the capacity that you should. Another way to look at that is saying that you're losing 10% somewhere. That has to do with the workstation 4 requiring 12 minutes. And remember, it's like that running. You can only go as fast as the thing in front of you. So because of station 4, it constrains this to 12 minutes. You've got 6 stations in there. Everything has to go through 6 of them. So you multiply that to get 72. And that's how much it's really going to take. Ideally, it takes 65. So idle time, this is another, all these numbers that we're working through here, these are real production numbers that the manufacturing people are working at. So idle time is, how much downtime is there? Well, because the station 1 has 2 minutes, 1 minute, 0, 2 minutes, 12, 1. So idle time is 6 stations times 12 minus 65, because that's those 7 minutes that you have that are missing. You add up all of these numbers I went through here, you're going to get 7 minutes. So these are numbers you need to know. Cycle time, efficiency, minimum of workstations, idle time. You know these, and know how to calculate, you know how to get them from the Excel and spreadsheet. So this is an example of homework problem.
He's cut from the group, dude. I don't care if he's still. He's cut from the group? Yeah. I know. Jaden, take your ball. Take your ball. No, he spoke fast. He's like, you know, most times I really do get more education from these books than I do this fucking teacher. And I was like, hell yeah. I was like, I wish I could read fucking books during code.
How was that?
Yeah, but I never read those books. But like, he's reading his own books. No, he writes through self books. Yeah, like that guy has like 48 love cards.
Only thing you need to enter is the number of tasks. And how do we know there's 9? You go to the problem.
Yeah, they were all self-help books. I've heard some of this. We talked about books for a long time. And I was like, dude, I've read some fucking good books too. And he's like,
Rich Dad Poor Dad?
well, yeah, of course he read that one. And then like, and I was like, how to win friends with religious people? And he was like, yeah, it's a good fucking book. I was like, yeah.
If you go to the problem, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 different tasks in this table.
He's winning friends with
Yeah, no, it's a special ed.
If you go to Excel and you enter 9 here, the task, you can name the task whatever you want. They're called A letter A is fine, B, click OK. Now in this spreadsheet, remember that if it has a formula in it, you do not enter a number. For some reason, this is one of the few where this hand cell is a number. But when this comes up, you're going to have all this is going to be blank. It's going to look like something like this. It's going to tell you that
Dude,
there's
I
error.
wish I knew someone in fucking finance.
Just for
I don't know.
simplicity, I've already entered the numbers. We have a cycle time of 12. Remember, cycle time is the only thing on this spreadsheet that is not calculated for you. You need to do that on your own by hand.
I
You
really
can do
wish
it on
mine
note
was
card like I did, or on Excel. You can just slide off to the side here,
muffins.
something like that. And remember, on the quizzes, there's extra space on the side. Over here, if you need to do math, you can like the calculator, or you can open a new tab at the bottom. So you have the cycle time, you need to enter the task name and the task time. Where do you get that? Right here. All of this information is from the table. So far, the only thing you've done
Look at
is copy everything in. Immediate predecessors,
Alright,
make
mine's
sure that you put a comma in between, so it
I
knows
was rushing. Maybe
what to do with it. There is a bunch of math down here that does calculations. Do not delete or really look at that. You don't need to understand it. And then the priority rule goes up here. And how do you know which priority rule to use? Look at the number of workstations and see which one produces the lowest number. So if you do 2, notice how it goes to 7.
Alright, then I don't know.
That's not good because remember we're trying to minimize them.
Chegg says so.
4 to 7, 5 does 6. Then if you do 6, there's no 6. So, when in doubt, choose number 1, start with number 1,
How is it
2,
wrong?
make sure this is minimized. So, 2 things you had to think about. The only 2 things you have to think about is calculating cycle time and which priority rule to choose. Priority rule is just simply related to the stations up here.
Yeah, I get the same as a fucking answer.
All of this math is done for you. And you look down here, you see it's calculated the cycle time. It's calculated some of the tasks, which is 65. Workstations calculated 6. Got the theoretical efficiency.
We all
And it has the actual number of stations.
I was doing the wrong fucking question. The answer.
Got the idle time is right here. So you don't need to do anything that we talked about in the spreadsheet, this part of it. Again, I showed you this so you understand and appreciate what's going on in the spreadsheet. This table right here will make more sense now that you know what you're doing with this number. All you're looking to do with this number is minimize the number of workstations, because that increases the efficiency for the process. Then there's a sample homework problem here. Down here I did the cycle time calculation for you. This is really important, because the cycle time for the sample problem is not as straightforward. But make sure that when I do the math out here, this is like chemistry. I don't know if you ever did chemistry, you do a lot of multiplications, things like that. All you're doing is units crossed out. So you know you have 1 hour, you know that for cycle cycle time is hours per unit. And this is where it's calculating hours per unit. Now you can call hours per unit. The unit that it's looking for is seconds. So all I need to do is
And I've been fucking off a lot, so I gotta get at it.
so all I need to do is enter hours per second, and units per minute per second.
Jaden texted me, yo, bro, are we doing my accent?
So the cycle time, it may take a minute or two to convert or to think about.
I have a number of the cats where the fuck we talking.
This is another problem for you to work on and work.
Wait, do we have an activity fair? Yeah, we do.
But it's short.
Yes, go ahead. Just take the lowest number.
Wait, maybe
First
he's like
score are always the ones that
percent.
choose the reality and work with that.
I think he's gone.
So, good question. Any other questions on this?
And soccer.
Okay.
What day is today? The 29th.
So for the group activity, again, you're gonna get into groups of 4. This is very straightforward. These videos should work. They worked when I tried them earlier.
He's here. No excuse. Get to class, buddy.
Erase all that. See this fucking class.
So you're gonna get into groups, you're gonna watch these videos, and you're going to answer the questions below. And you're gonna turn those in. So